a real-life comedy podcast designed to lighten you up, make you laugh, and get you off your ass. Now that's Kristen being Kristen. Are you freaking kidding me? Start the show.
Okay, everyone, it's another episode of Chicken in the Bag podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about parenting, an inclusive world, raising a child that has a specific medical syndrome. My son has learning issues. So if any of you parents out there that maybe dealt with some different things in your life, this will be the episode for you. And if you haven't, then maybe you just learn a little bit of something. Today, I'm going to be talking to Kasey Eykyn. She is a mom. She's a teacher. She's got 3 amazing children. So we're going to get her in here and get started. Okay, hi, Kasey. How are you?
How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining me. Okay, so first I got to give a shout out to Tim Smith Art because that's how I found you. He made some really cool sneakers for your son, Drew. And right when I saw your story, I just felt like I wanted to hear more about Drew's story. I think that there's a lot of parents that, you know, we're lucky to have children that have all different strengths and weaknesses. And so I reached out to you and you're welcome. You're great enough to come on here. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so first I want to ask you, Drew has Cri du Chat?
Yes. It took me like a year to learn how to say it. So
it's a tricky one. I'm like, I got to write this down. So now can you explain a little bit about what that is? I know it's like a chromosome syndrome. It's like right?
Piece of chromosome 5.
Okay. And so first of all, I know when we're parents, right, we're carrying the baby and we're so excited and we have all these hopes and dreams for what our child's going to be or look like or do. And, you know, we don't really know, like, we're like, especially being a first time parent, right? Yeah. So how old were you when you found, when did you realize that there was something different?
So I was 27 when we had Drew. He was our first child and not till he was born. So everything with the pregnancy, it was a little different looking back now that I've had other pregnancies, but nothing like alarming. The doctors, we had a few little hiccups where when they were checking his heartbeat, they couldn't find it. So I was sent to the hospital a few times for that, but I guess that happens. So they never thought there was really anything going on. They just thought, you know, he was a kid that was moving all around and they couldn't find his heartbeat. Until he was born, he had trouble eating when he was born. And that's when we found out.
Wow. So I know for me personally, I'll share a little bit of my story. My son, Justin, you know, they were monitoring me towards my end of my pregnancy. He wound up coming out. Everything seemed fine. And I kind of noticed that, you know, I raised my sister's kids. So I kind of knew certain milestones he should be hitting and he wasn't really hitting them. He wasn't talking. And so we were diagnosed on the mild on the spectrum when he was like 2.5. And I don't know, just when you hear something's wrong with your child or that they might have to go through a little bit of a challenging thing, your mind just kind of goes, okay, what is this? And I just went straight to the computer and researched because I was like, all right, I'm going to become an expert. Is that what you did?
So actually, when he went to CHOP for a couple weeks to learn how to eat and CHOP there, and they didn't even know still. Like they couldn't tell from his features or anything. So we didn't find out until a month later when genetic testing came back. And absolutely, I felt that way. We left CHOP high note and we're like, everything's fine. Like it was such a baby that there were no milestones to be met yet. And there were just, you know, a couple things that he was different with, but they still thought when we left, they thought everything was going to be fine. So when we got the call, I was definitely in shock, upset. I feel like, I mean, you're just scared. That's exactly what it is. What goes through your mind is all the struggles they're going to have, I think.
Exactly. It's funny because, you know, I had a friend that sent me this really beautiful poem, you know, when he was young, and it was called, I think it's called, when you plan as a parent, it kind of talks about parenting. You're planning on this trip to Italy and you get all the books about Italy and then you wind up in Holland and you're like, what is this? But then Holland's beautiful. And I think that's what I really am hoping that parents that are listening today get from this conversation that you come on is that, like, you know, all of our children are different. Some have challenges mentally, some physically, some of them don't, but they struggle with anxiety. So every kid has their own journey that they're going to go through. And through being a good parent, we learn to kind of figure out what their path is.
Definitely. And we love that poem. I love that poem too.
Yeah, because it really helped me. It really kind of helped me center myself. And I was like, okay, I'm going to approach it. And for me, what I decided with my son, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about the actual diagnosis. I'm just going to figure out who he is and push him on the journey that's right for him.
You're so on the same page. We were exactly So what you were saying before was going to the computer and researching. And I think when we did get the diagnosis, we did that. And it was all such information that was vague because it's not a it's a rare syndrome. So it was very vague information. And we were like, let's just stop researching and let's just let Drew lead the way. And
I love that.
Kind of found our happiness and our middle ground. And that's where, I don't know, we just Holland was going to be awesome.
You just make it the best. Kasey, I don't really understand a little bit of, can you just talk about some of the challenges that Drew has and like, what it's like on a day-to-day, like earlier years and now, what is he, 9 now?
Yeah. So when he was a baby, definitely took a lot of time to meet all the milestones. He has low muscle tone. So even holding his head up, I would say when he was a year old, he was still pretty babyish. He wasn't, he was army crawling, but struggled to. I think he took off at about 1.5 years old, where he started really getting strong, pulling himself up. He took a couple steps at 2 years old. So you can see that it was a long time between when he should have done it and when he should have done it and when he actually did it. So I think in the beginning, so physically he struggles, and then cognitively they're behind also. I honestly, he's so smart though. He takes in everything you say. He's smart in kind of a different way.
I love that. I think that's so true because that's what I feel about my son. We did a lot of therapies in the early years, and then he talked late. So it's kind of hard when you have a child that doesn't talk because everybody else has their kid talking. You're always like, shut up. And you're like, you have no idea. Like, celebrate that because you sometimes want to hear from them. And then he kind of developed his own way. And then he had learning issues. So then like the social came, but then he had dyslexia. So I had to fight 2 different little battles. And so I know as a teacher, you know what it's like. Talk a little bit about what it's like to have special ed and medical issues for a child, because you have to hit 2 different areas for him, correct?
We're fortunate, and Drew is healthy. Like, his organs are healthy. We didn't have any issues like that, but just, we see a lot of doctors. So in the beginning, we were constantly at CHOP just checking everything, because children with Cri du Chat can have their organs affected and have many medical issues. So we were fortunate. But he does still get his heart monitor. We have to just check on everything when he goes.
Wow.
Make sure he's okay to be on that medication.
That's interesting. So Kasey, what is he verbal or nonverbal? And
He cannot talk. He has a few words. He always used sign language when he was younger. And then we used PECs for a little, the pictures, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Just recently, he got a device where he can use that to communicate with us, which has been awesome.
Oh, that's so cool. Now, Kasey, you have 2 other children. God bless you, because I only had the one, and I can't imagine juggling 3. You have Duke, which is a little one, and then your middle is Amelia, and she looks like she is just full of piss and vinegar. She seems like she's a big personality.
Yeah, she is. She's shy when she meets you, but she is my helper. She will give a bath for me. She's always there for him. She's like a second mommy to him. So it's really awesome. And they have always been just so super connected. And it's just been awesome to see Drew respond to her and just take on the role of the big brother. Even though she can do so much more than him and she's helping him, he's still kind of like her favorite person. And,
Oh, I love that. So Kasey, some people I know when my son was little, he was in an inclusive classroom, and there was a boy in the classroom that couldn't do anything, and he had a 1-to-1 aid. And I remember every day, it just made me feel so like, no matter what journey you're on, it makes you appreciate the little things. And I think so many times people don't realize how lucky they are. What are some of the greatest gifts that you've gotten from being Drew's mom?
Gosh, I could talk about he is the best teacher. I will tell people, I don't even want to know the person I be without learning from him. He just, exactly what you said. He just taught us to take don't take anything. And he wakes up every day and everything's hard for him. Getting out of bed is hard for him. He wants me to carry him out of the room because that's what's easier. Walking's, but he does it. He gets up and he walks and he works hard and does everything. So I think he's just a role model to us,
Mm-hmm. I love that. Your little one is Drew, right? How old is Drew?
Duke is 2.
I mean, Duke.
No, that's okay. Yeah, Duke's 2. Duke's crazy. Duke was a little surprised and continues to keep us on our toes.
I mean, that's going to be, I mean, how is a day? Like, you're also a teacher.
Wild. So right now it's easy to come off. But it's wild. We have a lot of help. So I don't ever, we have both our parents, our set of parents are retired. So we have a lot of the grandparents come in and do the babysitting. They will get them off the bus. My parents and Mike's dad are very close by. So like today, Mike's dad came over to watch them while I came to my parents' house to do this.
Okay.
We do have a lot of help. So Mike and I always say we get too much credit than we deserve. We really are. Drew, we say, is in a very fortunate situation. He has a real village. And so we do it. Crazy. But with all that help, I can't complain. Everybody's
That's awesome. So you guys started a Dream Like Drew, right? And I think that's so important because I know other people that have had I have friends that have children that have different issues. So it's always nice to bring awareness. Talk about what inspired that.
Actually, it was my friend Allison that I work with. She is like a genius with things. And I went to her to see if she wanted to help me do something just to raise awareness. And she came up with like this Dream Like Drew week where we just celebrate all the things that we have in common, but all the ways we're different and how that also can bring us together.
I love that because I think that's what so many people don't talk about. Like, I think sometimes when we're different, it's scary. So I think sometimes people avoid it because they're like, I don't want to think about it. Or like if things are hard, it's like, oh, I don't want to have to think about it. So I think sometimes it's more of a fear thing instead of enjoying it. And I love that because.
And I say that was why we were so in the beginning scared, because I had never been around somebody with special needs or different abilities. Like in my life, when we went to school, kids like Drew weren't around. So I feel like if I knew someone, I would be like, oh my gosh, I know someone who has Cri du Chat. And I would have been like, oh my gosh, he's the coolest kid, is how,
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important. And I always think when we have bad situations happen, like I wish that kid participated in this week. Maybe he wouldn't have called Drew weird or, those incidents. I just feel like Dream Like Drew can make them minimal.
No, I love that. Kasey, another thing I love about that is one of the things that I think kids are a lot more inclusive or not as afraid. I think is a lot of times as the parents. I feel like my son was included in a lot more because I was so open and I came in.
Yes, I love that. I totally agree with you.
So how did you do that? Like with him being your first one at the park or someplace, did you kind of
hard for me in the beginning. Like, I think we are on a whole different, I don't think I could have handled and so many things. Like when we went to the park, I would get so nervous to go to the park. Like I wanted the park to be empty because every comment would hurt my feelings. And now I kind of can take it and teach a lesson from it because you get stronger as you go through it. And, as you share, I think is how you get strong. The less you talk about it, the harder it is to talk about.
I think that's such a great point because that was one of the things I did. I was like, okay, listen, I know for him, like he's going to have to learn how to deal in the real world because the world isn't going to, I think that's the thing that we have to say, the world can be ugly and it's not going to always be as nice as it should be. So we have to try to make them the best that they can be and help them figure out how to get through it. So that's how I kind of approached it.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah. So Kasey, I was going to say to you, so, I think some parents, like when they're going through all that day-to-day routine and all the hard stuff they have to do, some people are like, I'm not having any more kids. Did you go? No, like, because like, for me, I was like, I don't know if I could handle like having to deal with like all this.
And I will say, when we were pregnant, and you don't, then you're thinking anything can happen with a pregnancy. Like we could have another baby who needs a lot of help, and you are like, can I handle it? But we just found a lot of faith and we never expected what our life turned into. And I just felt like that was supposed to happen to us and it made life better. So we just kind of rolled with it, but we are a little crazy. I mean, I got a puppy too. I don't know what I love in my house. So.
No, I love that because one of the things I love when I found you, I scrolled through your page and I'm like, you guys just look like you have a fun time and you really you seem like you're somebody that's just full of energy that makes the best of situations. And I was like, oh, I just would love to talk to her because I think it's so important to help other people understand that.
Yes, I do too. I think that too. I think that's why sometimes I feel like I overshare, but then other times a new mom will message me and be like, I love your page and it gives me so much hope. Because when you get that diagnosis, you don't know what your life's going to look like. So I just want to show people how awesome it is. Like,
yeah, I love that. That's the thing for me. Like for me, what I had to decide, and sometimes I don't like to talk about my son because it's his journey.
Oh, I know. And I get nervous too, because people do have different, opinions about sharing. And I do get that. So it's a tough spot. I do get that.
And he's 18 now. So now I'll say, hey, do you mind if I talk about this? And he's like, yeah, that's fine. So say, he'll kind of say, yeah. But for me, what I basically learned is, as a parent for myself and raising him, I was like, all right, I'm just going to celebrate so for me, I focused on what he was good at. And we went all in on that. And that's what we've been really focusing on.
I love that so much. And I feel like we do the same. Like every child has strengths. I feel like you just need to find those strengths and celebrate them and let the other things fall to the.
Well, I think also too, what a lot of people don't realize is that especially now you have 3. They're also different, right? And I think a lot of parents just think that all their kids are going to do a certain thing and they're all going to fit in these little niches, and they don't. And I think one of the things that's so great is about letting kids be who they want to be and allowing them to have their own little personalities.
Yes. And we are an example of that. I feel like when you just accept who they are, and that goes for anything. If they're missing a chromosome, or if they, if it's maybe once, like, I feel like celebrate all they want to do and let them be exactly who they want to be. I feel like.
Yeah. Kasey, what grade do you teach?
I teach first grade.
First grade. Okay. So now in your classroom, have you ever had children with any issues in the past that you dealt with?
I have had the room, like the inclusive classroom, nothing as severe as Drew, but students with autism I've had, and different disabilities. And I love it. I love having them in my room. I feel like it makes my room extra special, really.
Right.
Kids learn so much from them.
Yeah, I think that's what's so interesting about what we do with school. I think the inclusive classroom can be really helpful because, it's introducing kids to different kids of different, abilities, and just it opens their mind a little bit to that things are different.
I think so too.
Yeah. So Kasey, like for me, through the education process can be daunting for parents, when they need some extra services or stuff like that. And for me, when I first encountered a special ed meeting, I was like, it's kind of like the diagnosis. Like no one prepares you for like this walking into a room of 10 people staring at you.
When I went in as a parent, that was one of the hardest parts of this journey, I think.
Yeah. And so for me, I learned a lot, and I became, thank God I had Google back then. I don't know how parents did it. They didn't have that. So I taught myself a lot of stuff. And I think that, we have some really great people that are really helpful, and we don't always have everybody that's super helpful. And so I can understand that part of the journey. Did you have even though you were a teacher, did you have any issues when you were trying to like get some services?
Oh, definitely. We had to fight to get Drew into his school. They wanted to keep him in district and have him in their inclusive preschool class. He just wasn't at a point. We looked at schools, all of our choices, and then we just fought for the one we thought he would be best in. I think it was important to me that he wasn't struggling the most in the classroom, and he wasn't in the classroom. I kind of really wanted him to be learning from people and people learning from him. I think, for Drew, that's what we really wanted. So we ended up getting a lawyer to help us, and it worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. But it is so stressful. I remember crying in the car the whole ride home, because I didn't feel like they had his best interest at heart.
I want to talk about that because that's one of the things that I went through. I went through like 5 years of just trying to find like the right classroom, because every kid, this is what the thing is, not everybody fits into the same niche. And I felt the same way. I wanted my son to have the best environment that he could learn the most, and also like, but not be like it's a really hard thing. And if you have 2 issues, they don't really have the right fit sometimes. And I have been there. It's such a frustrating experience. And I just want to encourage other parents that, fight. Like, you have to be a mama bear. You have to be an advocate for your child, because no one's going to advocate for your child.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just educate yourself on your options, and then whatever you have to do, it stinks that it has to be that way. Maybe, hopefully one won't be.
Yeah, but I think what's happened so much is that there's so many different things that kids do well and don't do, like there's so many different diagnoses now. So I think that they have certain classrooms that are great, but then they have classrooms that don't really fit for certain people. And I just think that it's a process that a lot of people, I don't think a lot of people even understand, unless that door knocks for you. You don't really mean not understand that it exists. So that's why I try to bring awareness sometimes, because I feel like I spinned my wheels for so much over certain things that I wish I didn't, because I felt like it put so much more stress on me as a parent, instead of just, I wish I understood more about just embracing his journey earlier, because I was really fighting to get him into a, like, he has to read, he has to make this benchmark. And now I'm kind of like, who cares about the benchmarks?
Yes. Don't you think that comes with time though? Because I feel like we were the same way in the beginning. Like we wanted so badly for him to hit the milestones, like just walk and just stand. And I feel like now we're just like, it's fine. He's just him. Like, I think that might just come with time. I am really impressed with people that don't have that as part of their journey.
Yeah, I think I think you nailed it for me, because I think it's so hard because the stereotypes of what society expects your children to do.
Yes.
And so you're on the pressure with those other mothers and everybody else, and the comparison stories when you're at the park.
Yes. And just they chit chat about your kid. It's hard. It's a whole lot of hard. It really is. But I think with time, I always tell new parents that on this journey, it gets harder in some ways because they're getting bigger and, the decisions seem bigger, but it gets easier in some ways because you're just stronger and you're comfortable and you're you realize how awesome it is and beautiful.
So Kasey, I'm sure like when you first found out about Cri du Chat, you were like, didn't know where to go. Is there a good online community that you're part of now?
And I will say it took me years to join it. I think we just wanted to just let Drew what we talked about. And I was kind of nervous to get information at some point. So I think Drew was like three when we finally joined, but now we have met the most amazing families, the most inspiring people. Like anytime people would ever compliment us, I'm like, no, you need to know people. Like I'm sure. So yeah, they're like family, and we know them really. We have friends in Colorado. We've never met, but they are like family.
Oh, I love that. I think that's so important. I think that's what's so great about what we have with the internet now. I mean, I think back years ago, if you had a child that had a certain a chromosome or a syndrome or a learning issue, you didn't really have anybody to go to, like, especially if there was nobody in your community. And now you can actually reach out and build a whole community where you can share information.
Yes, it's definitely, I feel so blessed to be raising Drew in this world.
So what are some of the things that Drew loves to do?
Loves Sesame Street. So he loves to go to Sesame Place because it's like Disney World. He loves to swim. We take him surfing. There's a great program, Heart of Surfing, that helps kids surf on the weekends. All children with different abilities. What else does he love to do? He just loves to laugh. He loves to read books. He's such a book nerd. His favorite place is the bookstore. He's just sweet. And he loves to like cuddle, and he loves his siblings.
Oh, I love that. He seems like just a special guy. And I just love it. I think it's so interesting because, they all gravitate towards something, they find their way that they're really into it. My son is super creative, and when he was little, it was all Legos.
Oh yes.
And then it kind of now as he gets older, it's more like he makes costumes, and he has like this really creative visual mind that makes like 3-dimensional stuff. And I just love it. And for us, we took a different approach when it came to education. Like we did education for a while. And after a while, I kind of said, okay, after 8th grade, we decided that we were going to kind of go more on a creative journey for his older years. And that's what we kind of did. And it was great for him.
Yeah, it was perfect for him. And we talk about that all the time. Like it's important to us for Drew because to learn life skills. So his school's really great with that. And I feel like whatever kid needs is what they should get. He doesn't need him to read at an 8th grade level. I need him to be able to put his shoes on, or. So.
Yeah. Kasey, let me ask you something, because I know like a lot of times it's so easy for parents to just be like, oh, these fucking kids are driving me crazy. You know what I mean? Like and especially on social media, there's so many like funny TikToks. And I
Yeah.
mean, I get it. I know everyone's sharing their own journey. Do you ever like, sometimes as a parent, do you ever be like, do you understand how lucky it is? Or are you cool with the fact, you ever think like that?
It is. I don't know. Would I be one of those people if I didn't have Drew? We kind of are Drew, but then also Amelia and Duke. And it is really hard what we're doing. You see that with Drew, but other people don't. So I do wish that everyone could experience what you are experiencing and what something like that, because I do think it's eye-opening and it's beautiful, it's important. So that's why I think it's great that we share it, because the more we share it, the more I think next time they're complaining about a doctor's appointment at CHOP, I'll be like, oh, I would go there every week one summer. Like, so.
No, that's a lot, because I think a lot of people don't realize that. I understand that, we have our days that every kid drives us crazy. We have our moments, but you're freaking busy.
Yeah.
I mean, Amelia does a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, it's crazy. Amelia is getting it at that age where she's running around doing things. So it's crazy.
So like for Drew, like, I mean, with Drew and like Duke, it's like you have to get two people, like you have to get two people in the car.
So Drew, we will try to take her to the sport, and the other one come with the boys maybe. But even we can't bring the boys to every baseball game or so sometimes the boys will stay home with me, and Mike would take her to softball. We try to make it as easy as possible for ourselves. We don't push to do anything the way other people do it.
All right.
It works out. It only gets tricky when my husband gets stuck at work.
Yeah, get her on the phone, like trying to find somebody. Yeah.
Grateful if we're both home.
I totally understand that. Kasey, let me ask you another question. So I was gonna say, as a teacher, right? What got you into teacher? Were you just always someone that was into kids? Because you seem like you're a great teacher.
I have always loved kids. School right away, and knew I had like a little mid-college crisis where I thought maybe I wanted to live in the city and work for a magazine. But I came back and I ended up with a teaching degree. I always have loved kids, and I always loved my teachers. So I feel like that is a big thing. I feel like that's why a lot of people become teachers, because they or two, that inspired them.
So wait, working in a magazine, what did you want to do in a magazine?
Clothes and shopping. So I always for a little bit, I was like, maybe I want to do something like that. But then I realized I'm not a city girl. I'm a South Jersey girl.
South Jersey. Well, I definitely think that you have a good eye for clothes, because a lot of times that's what I love about when I watch your page, because like the kids are always like dressed so cute. I'm like, oh my God, they like look at a catalog over here.
Thank you. No, I have a lot of fun with them.
Yeah.
Doesn't love it, but
who doesn't love it?
My husband might not love it. It might cost more money than it needs to. They're only gonna let me dress them for a few years, so.
That's such a good point, because I think they don't. They all develop their own little personalities, and like, I'm not wearing that. Yeah.
Exactly.
So Kasey, like, your husband and you seem like you're a really great team. Have you guys always like that? Because that can be a really challenging thing when you have kids with learning issues or health issues. A lot of times it's a big thing that divides a lot of relationships. How was it for you guys earlier, and how did you guys kind of like make it through that difficult time?
About this, just things we might talk about, and that we are so lucky. I have always just been on the same since day one. I remember when we got the diagnosis that day, Mike was at work and he came home and I'm like, what are we going to do? And he's like, what do you mean? He's our son and we're just going to, love him. And I swear, we just always have been on the same page.
I love that. I think that's so great, because I mean, I think it's so hard for some parents, because especially men, because they have all these ideas like, this is my son and he's going to do all this stuff. And sometimes when you get like that hit in the face, you're just like, oh, I don't know how we're going to do this.
Yeah. And I think we definitely got that hit in the face together though. And I got out of it together. And I feel like we are very lucky, because every day I feel how, oh my gosh, if we didn't agree on this, this would be an issue. There's a lot of decisions to be made. So I feel like we just have kind of the same mindset, I guess. And maybe, I don't know.
No, I think that's a good point, because not everybody has the same mindset. You know, sometimes and not everybody's good at like accepting the information.
And listening. I think that's it. Yeah, exactly. We both listen to each other. And once we listen to each other, we can figure out, I just will think of it over and over. And I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure this is what, like, I worry more than him.
So you're the warrior. Yeah, I mean, I think that's how it comes down to. Yeah, some people like one's a warrior, one's the doer, like whatever. But that's great that you stay connected on that, because it can be really it's taxing sometimes. And I'm sure there's days that you're just absolutely like, you're exhausted from the process.
Mike really is. I'm very lucky. Mike is definitely a partner. I took Drew to the doctor in the beginning of the summer, and a doctor at our children's hospital, and he said, he told Drew, he goes, Mike has been dealing with him. Drew takes some medications to help him focus and stuff. And Mike does all the phone calls, because when I teach, I can't really play phone tag. And the doctor said, like, Drew, your dad, I said hi, because he is one amazing dad. And he just said that is really rare for the dad to be calling me. Like it is, which I think that's so sad. But it is just the way it is, I guess.
Oh, I think sometimes maybe moms are more the nurturer. They're the mama bears. Like that's why I said don't mess with mom on this episode. And I think it's a natural instinct for a mother to fight for their child for some reason. And I think it's a little bit harder for the man to kind of get on board or understand that maybe their kid has issues or isn't maybe going to reach all these certain milestones. So I think it's probably just a natural thing that they deal with more moms sometimes. And I think that is great to have a partner like that can kind of like you can lean on, or you can like put some stuff on.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I could never do it. I couldn't do it. I mean, I guess you could. You do what you have to do.
Right.
I'm so lucky. We have a great village. We have a great team.
Yeah, that's great. So let me ask you something. So like, what are some of the things that, do you have like you let Drew just be Drew, but do you have some goals that do you have goals that you work on or that you hope for, or you just kind of like just riding the wave?
We definitely want him to be able to communicate with that device, just because he does have behaviors, frustrated. So that's definitely a big goal for us. And he does have behaviors. Like he is the sweetest guy, but he also gets very angry and upset and frustrated. So I think just getting to a point where he doesn't feel those things is our main goal.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I was not really sure like what some of the things that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. So the frustration level, and because there's probably days that he probably is either tired or just wishes that he could do. You can't do the things that you want to do.
We have holes in our wall. He has banged his head through our wall. He broke glass in our window. Like we have some struggles. We definitely do. But I feel like the moment he gives you a hug, I forget about those things. It's not, you don't ignore them. We want to work on them, but it's just worth all those things.
Yeah. What are some you guys have strategies, you have people that you work with, and then you do it at school, then you take it home and try to work on those strategies?
Yeah, we were in behavior therapy where they came to the house for a couple years. We recently just stopped it. So that was helpful. And we use a lot of those strategies that they gave to us, just kind of try to, distract him with something else. It's a work in process, I think, Yeah, I think and communicate, the less we'll see that. It really is that he has so much and he can't, I see Amelia argue with me. Everything I say, that girl needs to, and Drew can't do that. So like, that's not fair. And I would want to slam my head through the wall too.
No, Kasey, that's such a great point. Because I think, it's funny. My mom said this, and I was reading a lot of quotes about parenting this week. So I was really trying to think about the different parenting styles. And there's the gentle parent and there's the tyrant parent. You know what I mean? Like, do as I say because I said. And like, Amelia is probably someone that has a lot of questions and a lot of opinions, kind of like myself, or like my younger nieces like that too. And yeah, so because they can express themselves, but as someone that can't, it's really frustrating.
So that's definitely our number one goal with him. Just get him where he can communicate so that he doesn't feel those things so badly, Yeah.
And I think that's kind of interesting, because you probably have to kind of work as a parent. You probably have to find your skill sets of how you react to it. But that can be sometimes taxing on you emotionally and mentally certain days too. So I'm like, do you have a way for you to kind of de-stress? Like, do you guys have any get away? Like, is there a way that you and Mike kind of deal with it?
I think we don't get out as much as we should. My parents have taken them for the weekends and kind of given us a break, but it is a lot, so we can't do it often. Like Drew is physically, it's a lot of work, and our parents are older, so like giving him a shower, a bath, all those things. He still is in a diaper. Those things it's hard for a whole weekend. So we've gotten little trips away and stuff. Nothing long, a night or two. But Mike is really good about giving me time. Mike likes sport. He plays baseball, and we both have our little escapes. It's just
That's good. Yeah. Well, I would think that you would need that because you can't constantly be on that type of schedule. You need something that kind of gets you a little time off.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. That's unbelievable. Wow. So there's so much like that's so Kasey. I mean, I just really wanted to kind of just chat with you because I just was like, right when I saw the pictures, I was like, oh God, like this, she's just, the kids are just adorable. And you just seem like such a warm person. And I just really wanted to understand more because I think a lot of times that if we don't ask questions, then we don't understand. And I just think that there are so many parents that have these challenges and they think that they're alone.
Yes, I think that too. Yeah, I do. And I think the more I share, the more I want other people to share. So I feel like, we have to share if we want to learn from other people too.
Yeah, because I think like we were saying earlier, a lot of times parents they're not the best. Like, oh, I don't want to think about that because God, I don't want it to come to my house. But I mean, the more that I think as adults, and I think that goes through a lot of different things in society. I think that the kids are better than adults on so many.
I think that too. I know. And I think, I can connect what we're doing, raising like children with special needs. We're in a minority, like, I feel like you can connect it to different parts of life, what other people are struggling with, being open-minded and loving all people.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Kasey, yeah, so the day with Drew, it was the one sock up and one sock down. What was the significance of the sock?
It's to represent the deleted part of the chromosome, to the lower sock. Yes.
I love that. That makes so much more sense because I wasn't sure if it was just like, just being creative or just like being different.
Yes, that is to the Cri du Chat Awareness Day. They all do that.
Okay. And so is that something that's across the country or?
We're trying to get word out for that. Yeah, it's May 5th.
May 5th. Okay, I love that. So May 5th is Cri du Chat Awareness.
Yes, and then we through that week, whatever week it begins it or follows it, I guess. That's okay.
That's great. So maybe you can kind of you guys are planning on reaching out to like other school districts and trying to make it like kind of like Crazy Hat Day.
Yes, we did last year. We had a bunch of school districts do it. I'm trying to think how many altogether. Maybe between 5 and 10 schools did it with us. So it wasn't last year. It was really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. I love that. So let me see what else I'm going to ask you from other parents. Let's see. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think parents should do to like, do you have a trick for parents to kind of like open up the dialogue or something how parents can learn more and how they can share it with their children?
I feel like there's so many books now that could be a conversation. So, I mean, I feel like that is always a great way for what that I do with my kids and with my students. But when I always tell my students, when you see a kid out and he's different, or, they know Drew, my students, I'll say, just walk up and say hi. And I feel like parents should encourage, you get a lot of stares and you're just, I always just say, Drew, say hi. And Drew says hi in a different way. So, but I want them to know that's what he's saying. He's saying hi to you. I say, I feel, but I know I'm nervous to say that because I feel like not everyone likes people to come up to them and, start conversation. But I think that's what's important to tell kids. Just reach out, say hello,
I think that can be also with the parents too, though. Don't you think a parent would want to know that people don't look at them like they were some weirdo at the park that maybe like, oh, hey, how are you?
Just reach. That's all you have to do. I feel like to make set someone at ease, just be friendly. It's not that.
I think that's so true, Kasey, because I think that's what so many people just don't do.
But I feel like it's easy. I mean, it's easier to just, stare and then go far away, I guess. I don't know. I remember we went to the park once and there were people there and I kind of wanted to leave. And Mike was like, come on. And we went. And they ended up being like the coolest kids ever. That I was like, that was like a sign from somewhere. Like, stop being so ridiculous. Like, it's gonna be good. Where you're gonna go places. People are gonna learn through. And these kids were awesome. They didn't ask one question. They like loved him. They just thought he was cool, and they just came. They wanted to play with him the whole time.
Yeah, I think that's so true. It's like just getting yourself comfortable because, and I think if parents can make other parents feel at ease, like
Yeah.
especially if you see a parent that maybe has a child that has special needs and they have other kids with them, like you can actually be such an advocate for that parent because they're trying to juggle 2 or 3 different kids at the park. So you can be like, hey,
Yeah, we all need to help each other out.
I totally agree with you because a lot of parents don't realize that. Like it could just be simple, like, hey, do you need any help with anything? Or you know what I mean? Like, or getting them back into the car. That could be such a huge difference. And I just think that, it takes 2 seconds just to be a nice person and start a conversation. Or maybe that mom just needs to have a little bit of adult conversation for like 5 minutes.
So true. I need that a lot. I need adult conversation. Totally agree with you. Or even I feel like I remember even saying, man, you're doing a great job, Mom. Like, have you ever heard stories like that? That's happened to me a few times. Like the kids were monsters. And a woman at Target was like, you're doing great. Like, sincere. She wasn't joking. I wasn't doing a great job.
No, because I think you are doing a great job because she probably knows that you're juggling a bunch of different things and it's not easy to even get into the store. I mean, like, let's be honest, like anybody that has 2 or 3 kids knows just get into a supermarket could be just an absolute nightmare, especially if it's the wrong time of day.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like let's all just admit we're a mess sometimes and let's just cheer each other on, right?
100%. I think that's what I think we have to understand, that like there's no right or wrong way because there's so much parent shaming and mom shaming. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. We're all on our own journeys. And like, we could be a little bit more like, good job, or hey, I see you, instead of like, oh my God, can you believe she did that?
I feel like we really do need to. I think that I will sometimes say that to people. Like, everybody is different. Like, I didn't really post a lot about Drew in the beginning. Like, we struggled, but if it suits you, do it. Like, I just think whatever works for you, you find your happiness. For it didn't suit us to be obsessed with the syndrome and, going everywhere we could, trying to, like, some people do those things. Just keep trying to find a way to make them as typical as possible, where we just kind of turned more into the realm of, you get it, what I'm saying, right?
I totally get that because that's, I think, one of the things I noticed in the beginning, like, like my son, has flourished and now he talks and he's super social and he's done really well and he's come so far and I'm so blessed. You know what I mean? Because I can see that it can go either way or you just never know what you're going to get. But the thing is, I saw so many people that just stuck with, the special ed parents only. And I was like, no, I want them to be involved with everybody. You know what I mean? I don't want to close them into one little box because the world is a big place. So I totally get what you're saying about that, because I think
that's wrong. You're just saying that's not what works for us. And that's why I always want to just point out, just do whatever makes you happy, because you only get to do this once.
Right. And do what works for your family. If it makes you feel more comfortable to be with the inclusive people, then that's totally fine. But if you want to kind of say, hey, we don't really want to just have it be just that, Drew is Drew. He's not just Cri du Chat, which is, I think, is so important.
Yes, I do too. I mean, it definitely was important to us, and it's been great getting him to meet all these kids and people. It really has.
Yeah, I think that's what's so important, because I think a lot of parents have to, we all are doing the best to try to make them the best people that they can be. And, it can be really taxing because once you lock on to just that's the name or the diagnosis, right? Whether it be ADHD, whether it be autism, whether it be, anxiety, whatever, right? Your child is more than their diagnosis, they're a person.
I love that. And I feel so many things in this world, don't you? Like, I love that. That's great.
Yeah, because I had a teacher one time that was telling me, like, because I felt like one day I was at my son's school and a kid wasn't doing something, or they said, oh, I can't do that because of my OCD. And I wanted to be like, who's your parent? Like, you're so much more than your OCD. And one of my friends who's a teacher was saying, we don't call them learning disabilities, we call them learning differences.
I love that. Yes. I'm trying to get the language right because I like different abilities more than special needs, but I still end up saying special needs. But the wording is definitely changing, and I love where it's going.
Yeah. I love that you say that, Kasey, because I didn't want to, I hate saying special needs or syndrome or whatever, as a child with a different, I love different abilities, just like learning differences, because it turns it to a positive instead of a negative, because, that's the situation they have, but they're so much more able, or they have so much different skill sets. And that's what I think. And you want the child to actually learn that they have that they can do anything.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to you want to set the bar high and see what happens.
It might not be what everybody else is doing.
Exactly.
But they can do so much more for themselves. And I think that's what I don't like to, it's like putting limitations on them. Like there's no there's limitations to an extent, but not limitations to their creativity, not limitations to like what they're going to gravitate towards. So you just never know. I mean, there's all these amazing movies. And if we sit there and try to say, well, that's all they can do, then you're putting limits on them.
I agree with you completely. And I think Mike and I always, people with Cri du Chat, they range in different abilities. So I feel like we always saw that as a great thing. We don't know, I feel like that leaves the possibilities anywhere, go as far as he wants to or strives to.
Yeah. And like, you just never know, like, as technology changes, as like the medical world changes, as there's just so many different things that could happen. And so like what somebody couldn't do 5 years ago, sometimes it changes 5 to 10 years down the line. So it's just like, you want to leave it that we're open to all possibilities. And then at least it's more coming from a place of like a positive mindset instead of like a limited mindset.
Exactly. Right. And to not be upset if they don't get to a place that you thought, have no expectations either. We've kind of into that now, in some ways. With potty training, we worked hard a few times. Amelia and I would leave the house, and Mike and him would work for weeks, and it just is. His body isn't ready for it. So we just kind of ended up putting that on the back burner, And I don't have an expectation now. I'm like, whatever happens, it's gonna be fine.
Because it is. I think that's so true. I just hope that that's what I hope people get out of this conversation, Kasey, is that we never know what path we're going to be on. And it's about mindset and what you choose to do with it.
Yes. I love that. And I think to remember that at any moment, your life could be exactly not what you thought, because that's what happened to us, So I think just remember that and appreciate everything you have and take care of everyone,
I love that. Well, everybody, if you want to, I hope you learned a little bit about Cri du Chat today, and also about, just being a parent and letting your kids be who they want to be. They all have their own strengths and weaknesses, and they're all beautiful and special in their own ways. And as parents, all we can do is be the one to guide them and love them. That's our job, and they'll be whatever they're going to be. So I appreciate Kasey coming on here and chatting with us. And if you want to, her little, Instagram handle's been on the bottom all here. What is it? Was it Kasey May?
Kasey May 20.
Oh, I did Kasey Matt. Kasey May. Kasey May 2029 on Instagram. I better spell check next time. Kasey, thank you so much for joining us today.
Awesome. Thanks for talking with me.
All right. And we'll be back next week with another episode. And have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
This episode of Chicken in a Bag is over. She's got to get back to being a mom, wife, bartender, therapist, comedian, real life stuff. But you can catch more episodes of Kristen being Kristen on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe. Catch you next time.